There are ways in which men are privileged and ways in which women are. And it's impossible to say who's better off at this point. And it also depends on the complex set of advantages and burdens, and it varies by social class and so forth. But it's absurd to simply say the women are so much worse off. I mean, I think it's a central fallacy in feminism. I think too much of the feminist movement focuses on men and women at the very top in professions, like how many CEOs of Fortune 500s. And it's true, there are far more men than women, more men who are senators and at the top of their profession. But what happens when you look further down in society? And people who are not, in the top 10% in terms of education and elite degrees and so forth, it's a different picture. If you look at working class men and women, it's, both have burdens and challenges. And one of the special burdens that a working class young man has is he's likely to be less educated. And he's entering an information economy where, as I keep saying, education has never been more important. And literacy has never been more important. And we have a large cohort of young men coming along who are going to find a place for themselves in this economy. And we have a women's movement that is primarily focused on some imbalances at the very pinnacle of society and not looked at just the reality of the lives. To be more specific, if you look at, they'll talk about the wage gap, and that's true. There's a gap, and we want to close it, but I think we have to be honest about it. It's not as extreme as they say, and most of it's explained by the different jobs men and women do, or how many hours you work per week, things like that. But also men do most of the dangerous jobs. There's a huge gap in mortality in the workplace. Like, I don't know, something like 5,000 Americans die in the workplace every year. 94% of them are men. Then it goes for, that's mortality. Also, it's true for injuries. I mean, men do most of the dangerous, gritty jobs, the jobs where you're outside or pitching tar or on top of roofs or construction. These are largely male undertakings, and it has to be factored in when you're doing this calculus of well-being. And but we don't do that. I'm still a feminist. I believe in equality, but that means you care about men and women. And you don't see, as you mentioned before, you don't see it as a competition where you have to be on one team. Because I think that also if men are in trouble or boys are in trouble, so are women. We're in this together. So what we're doing now is so perverse because by not attending to the education of young men, there's going to be a mismatch. People typically marry someone with a similar education. What's going to happen? I mean, we know what's happening right now. A lot of people aren't finding each other. There's a lot of loneliness. And I just don't think the solution is to focus on one sex and not the other.